I'm so excited about it. So, first, what I want to do is to actually take a trip down memory lane, just to kind of give you guys some context and a story that I'll actually bring up again later. About 8 years ago, I was working at Yahoo, and as Gerald mentioned, I led the development of something called dynamic retargeting at Yahoo. And most people won't know the industry term, but I guarantee you that you'll recognize it when I describe it. Dynamic retargeting is something that happens when you go to a website, you take a look at a pair of shoes, you do not buy them, and instead, they follow you around the web for about a month or two. Yes? Okay, yes. So I helped to develop that, and for those of you that were annoyed by that, I humbly apologize. But let's take a look at this video here. Back in the day, everybody knows what it is now, but back in the day, not too many people did. So this is an actual video that is years and years and years old of Travelocity doing a retargeting ad. And so what I would do is I'd get up in front of a group of people and say, hey, somebody call out a random city, and somebody would say Kalamazoo, and somebody would say another city, and it'd be Moscow. And it's the two randomest cities that anybody could think of. And there's no way I could have predicted what these people were saying. And then we'd go and we'd do a flight search for it. $831 on American Airlines, $1388 on United. We wouldn't buy, but the next ad that you would see would be for Kalamazoo to Moscow. This is the travel equivalent of the shoes following you around the internet. At the time, this was a crazy, like nobody really understood how and why this could happen. And so now you understand that this is kind of common. But I think that I bring this story up because it brings up a couple of interesting dynamics that will be played, that I'll bring up again at the end of this talk. But anyway, what happened was, as we were doing this was my first job in online advertising, and I really didn't know anything at that point. And I was assigned to kind of work on this product, and we built it up. And I remember going to my boss, his name was David Kopp, and I said, hey David, here is the first performance reports from Travelocity on dynamic retargeting. And so he flipped through the pages a little bit, and he handed the paper back to me and said, rookie, this is all wrong. Right? And I was like, why is that? It's like, because if these numbers are right, you've just found the most profitable advertising execution I've ever seen. And I was like, okay, David, I knew these numbers were high. I didn't know they were that high, but we rechecked these numbers 4 times, and the client confirms. These numbers are correct. And so at that point in time, we knew that we were onto something. As a side note, I probably should have quit my job then and there and started a different company. No less than 4 companies have IPO'd on the back of that particular tactic. But I didn't, and instead we kind of continued on at Yahoo and later at Google. But the interesting part about that wasn't that and the reason why I bring it up, wasn't to establish my bona fides in advertising, the fact that I've been doing this for a while, but instead to really kind of tell you about what happened next. And like any company, when I was working with Travelocity, I would go to them and if you show them a way to just get tons and tons of profit, then what the natural reaction from them will be, how do we do even more of this? And so in this particular case, what the differentiating part about this advertisement was the fact of how personalized, how specific it was. And so they were thought to themselves, well, look, if a little bit of personalization, Kalamazoo to Moscow, goes and creates stuff like results like these, what about a lot of personalization? And I was like, okay, what did you have in mind? Well, how about this, Pete? We can do an ad that instead of saying cheap flights from Kalamazoo to Moscow, it could say, hello, Peter Kim. 42.6 seconds ago, you did a flight search from Kalamazoo to Moscow. The cheapest flight was on American Airlines for $831, but we know that you're a United flyer. For $1388, we can get you the aisle seat with your frequent flyer number in there. Don't worry, we already have your credit card. Just click here. And that's the ad. We didn't do that, but not for the reasons that you may suspect. The reasons why, a lot of people would say, well, isn't that really technically challenging to do? Wouldn't that be really hard to write all the engineering code in order to do that? I'll tell you right now, it's trivial. We absolutely could have done that 9 years ago or 8 years ago. We absolutely could do that today. We choose not to. And the reason is not a technical reason, but instead because the purpose of online advertising and any advertising is to entice and to persuade as opposed to scare the living crap out of, right? And so we have held back for years and years and years and years around some of the specificity and the personalization that we absolutely could have done. Okay, so like I said, I bring that story to introduce some points. We'll come back to it later.